Believe it or not, I've never seen Laserblast without the Mystery Science Theater 3000 commentary. But we've seen a ton of bad movies on this channel, so I'm sure I can suffer through watching it just this once without the guys riffing it. It can't be that bad, right? It opens up with some guy wandering around the desert with a knockoff BFG 9000.
Big gun.
Speaking of knockoffs, doesn't this guy look like a skinny Incredible Hulk? Well, it turns out that this is what the gun turns you into. Kind of like how Gollum changed his appearance when he was obsessing over the ring. When a human discovers the power of this gun, it changes them. Anyway, this almighty weapon isn't from this world, and we see the original owners of it. Honestly, they look pretty cool, and the stop motion is done quite well. There's a firefight, but in the end the aliens win, but they forgot to retrieve their weapon. Then a plane flies overhead and spooks them, so they take off, leaving it behind. Now some dude wakes up and he falls out of bed. This is Billy Duncan. He gets up to find his mom packing for a business trip, which just means Billy will have free reign over the house for the next couple days and explain why his parents aren't around. With nothing else to do, he goes for a little drive.
I'm pretty sure this is the long version of whatever the heck song this is.
We're gonna go around the block until the song's over.
Well, I mean a long drive to pick up his girlfriend Kathy. But her crazed grandfather answers the door instead, not letting him in. So it's back to the open road, and I guess he's going too fast because the cops pull him over.
Who was that?
I think it's that Bill Duncan.
As they're writing him a ticket, I can't help but notice the big footprints painted on the side of his van. I like them. You can see little places to put your foot so you know to climb to the roof, but having them painted is a nice touch. Anyway, Billy speeds off, and when the cops head out, they cut off a guy and he flips his car. Oops. Billy stops at the gas station to drink a Coke, and boy, does it feel like a commercial. But it actually does serve a purpose that we'll get to in a second. First, we have to meet Billy's rivals, Chuck and Froggy. They challenge him to a race, but Billy's old hunk of junk won't even turn over. A little later, Billy's out in the desert, still drinking that Coke. Well, it's empty now, so he throws the bottle, and the gun shoots it. Even a gun knows you shouldn't litter. Well, Billy picks it up for a closer look and starts acting like a monkey playing with a toy gun. Finally, he sees the ashes left behind by the poor schmuck who found it the first time, and he grabs the weird necklace, which you need to make the gun fire. It's kind of like a key. It won't shoot unless they're both together. Which, honestly, looks pretty fun. I don't blame him, I'd probably do the same thing. Now we see Kathy meeting Billy for a picnic. Not much happens here, but you can see a red mark on Billy's chest, right where the necklace was. So, that's not good. Up in space, we see the aliens fly around, and they get an earful. Their boss calls them and yells at them for leaving this powerful weapon on Earth. So they turn around to retrieve it. One thing that's kind of cool is that there's no captions, and we obviously can't understand them. You just know that these guys are in trouble by the way they're all talking. Billy and Kathy then head over to their friend Fanny's house. I know that that's a real name, don't get me wrong, but how would you like to be called Fanny? Anyway, they're all at this birthday party, and boy, there's a lot of skin here. Were shirts illegal in the 70s? Everyone goes swimming for a while until eventually the party heads inside, where Billy finds Chuck and Froggy getting handsy with his girl.
Get off of me, you stupid hoe!
They all fight for a bit until Kathy hits him with a tennis racket, and they're gone for good. Kathy and Billy talk for a little bit, and you can tell that, at least right now, they really do care for each other. That night, Billy once again is lured in by the gun's power, but he's able to resist to get some sleep. With half a gallon of milk on his bedside table, who leaves an open container of milk next to their bed? Well, it seems like Billy couldn't resist the power of the gun, and he gets out that night ready to wreak some havoc. His first victim? Froggy and Chuck, of course. He shoots their car, which explodes into a spectacular fireball, blowing it to smithereens. The next day, a high-up government official shows up at the small town's police station. This is Tony Craig, and he's been sent to track down the alien weapon. He asks if anything unusual has been happening around the town, and the only thing reported is Chuck's car exploding. So that's his first lead. And they ask all the kids to give a testimony.
You know, just between us, I think it was a flying saucer.
Kid's nuts. Seen Star Wars 5 times.
Next, we check in with Billy, who's looking much better. The same can't be said about that red mark on his chest, however. So Kathy makes him go see Dr. Mellon, played by Roddy McDowall, more famous for playing Cornelius in Planet of the Apes. I'm surprised to see an actual actor in this movie. Anyway, he takes a closer look at the thing growing on Billy's chest, and honestly, he's stumped. So he calls in a favor from a buddy, Mike, who works at a lab and promises to deliver it that night. But he doesn't get the chance, because a crazed Billy blows him up.
Isn't that doorknob abnormally high?
I know it's been said before, but why are the doorknobs so high here? It's like they did all this stuff on purpose just to give the audience something to look for because they knew the movie was boring. Anyway, it's after 2 a.m. and the doctor's still a no-show, so Mike gives up. The next day, the cops bring Billy in for questioning. There's those feet again. Craig and the chief interrogate him a bit and ask him what he's been up to. Eventually, he tells them about the doctor's visit, and they ask to see his chest. From the looks of it, the metal plate is growing back.
God.
Craig instantly recognizes this, and he knows this is his guy. Even so, they let him go, and Craig heads to the doctor's crash site to pick up the metal disc he amputated, and he takes that to Mike's lab for further study. He hasn't seen anything like this before, and he knows that this isn't from Earth. He's also learned something else. It's growing.
Whatever it is growing.
Back to the cops, who stop for a Coke.
I can use a Coke!
Again, is this just a commercial? Pete goes to take a dump, and Billy blows up the restroom. Jesse makes a run for it as the whole gas station erupts in flames. Then the cop comes face to face with Billy, and it's lights out. The next morning, Billy and Kathy are doing it, just out in the open on the side of the road for anyone to see. Well, Billy passes out, and Kathy finds the necklace. She's able to put 2 and 2 together that this is what's causing his boo-boo. And when she puts it on him, he turns into the Incredible Hulk and goes into attack mode. Luckily for Kathy, he's not that threatening, and he runs into his car, which gives her time to get away. Now Billy goes around shooting things aimlessly, mainly blowing up pinball machines. Some officers in the air spot Billy and try to shoot him down, but yeah, their plan failed miserably, and Billy shoots them down instead. Chuck and Froggy get a new car and they're out cruising around when, yeah, you guessed it, Billy blows that one up too. How are they going to explain this one to the insurance company? Well, by the look of things, they won't have to, because they're dead. Back at Kathy's house, we see that she's clearly upset over all this. Craig is there for some reason, and he teams up with her to track down Billy. But little does he know that the aliens are there too. Having blown up everything in his small town, Billy moves on to the next. getting a ride from a good Samaritan. But just
I
what
knew
the
Nirvana was
heck is
straight
he
around the
talking
corner.
about?
I turned the corner, ran smack into Betty Crocker. She was running across the sky yelling, "You never outgrow your need for milk." So I looked at her. I said, "Baby, you're something else."
Billy shoots a Star Wars sign, which always gets a chuckle. Like, did they think this movie was gonna blow away Star Wars? Sorry, you're wrong. Finally, Billy kills the driver and just makes his way into town. Which, I'm pretty sure it's illegal to drive without a door, and I'm sure they didn't get permits to film here, but okay, moving on. In the city, Billy does what he does best: blow crap up, and dance around like a crazy person. Eventually, Craig and Kathy show up to end all this, but they don't get their chance because one of the aliens shoots and kills Billy, and then he speeds off in his spaceship, but they forgot to grab the gun. Again! Wasn't that the whole point of them coming back to Earth? So now the whole process is just gonna start over again. And that was Laserblast. And you know, even without the MST3K commentary, it's watchable. It's not good, but it's entertaining enough. I was actually surprised to see some acting talent here and there, mainly with Roddy McDowall. And any time that you see stop motion aliens, it's a plus. You can't say that they cheaped out on the explosions either. The makeup was a little lacking. I guess they didn't have enough to cover anything more than his face. And the plot has its holes, that's for sure. But if you take in consideration that this movie was basically filmed in 3 weekends with almost no budget, I'm surprised it exists at all. Watch Laserblast when you're in the mood for a fun B-movie. You know, I'm feeling pretty generous today, so I think I'll give it 2.5 Bigfoot footprints painted on the side of your van out of 4. You want to hear something really crazy? There's a rumor going around that Billy's mom is a drug dealer. That's right. Remember in the beginning when she was packing for a business trip? Well, it turns out she was going to Acapulco, which is known for its high crime and drug rates. Just look at the way Billy looks at his mom here. I always thought that that was so awkward the way he disapproved of her leaving, but now it all makes sense. Furthermore, Chuck and Froggy are local dealers. Yeah, no doubt. Listen to this.
You see us out early this morning, Froggy?
I bet he ain't got our reason, Chuck.
No, he wouldn't like that kind of party. It's a little too rough for him. You know, I've been up all night and I don't feel sleepy.